Hit it. Oh, how you feel, brother?
Feeling good.
You feel good?
Feeling good. It's grooving.
Ain't so much bone, brother. How you feel, man?
I feel all right.
I call your name. I don't want no people to know you're in here. How you feel, fella? Hey, Jam! Sure getting down. Gotta take you higher. Ow! All right. You want to do it again? You want to do it again, huh?
Yeah, let's go on that.
Gotta take you higher.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Haywood Gareth. I am here today for Miss Sharita, who had an emergency she had to take care of, and she asked me to come on and guest host for her today. I appreciate her confidence in me, and I thank you. And please send your prayers out to the family. Today we have a special guest in the studio, Miss Marie Lamel from, let me put on my glasses here, Platinum Star Public Relations. She's going to be talking about the Universal Domino League Championship that will be in Las Vegas at the Hooters Casino.
That's right.
May the 1st, 2015. Marie, tell us about
It's
it.
the weekend of the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, so I know all of you guys will be out there. So the day before is the battle before the battle. This is about the Battle of the Bones. So we have Omar Gooding, you know, the actor from Baby Boy, Family Time. He is the champion from the Arizona tournament that we held back in January. We have a new champion for the Los Angeles tournament we just had in March, and that's Courtney Triggs. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Great fun. Hope you can be there.
Yeah, tell me about the tournament in LA. I did hear something about it. These guys really go serious.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's hours of intense playing, but fun as well. It's a lot of, socialization that goes on. As you know, when you're playing dominoes, there's a lot of, trash talking and all of that, just like the same thing you see in a boxing ring, but it's just at a tabletop. But we're definitely open to all levels of players, diverse folks, so you never know who you're sitting next to. And it's just, a great way to compete on a level playing field.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it just for a championship trophy or belt, or is there money involved?
Absolutely, there's money involved. There's always got to be money involved. That's how we do it. So for the Vegas one, it's $25,000 in cash and prizes, not just the $25,000, but it's over 3 of the top winners. That will get a different amount of money. And of course, the top winner will win a championship belt, very much like you see on any champion boxer.
Well, let me ask you this question. Can you learn how to play dominoes like in a weekend, a couple of days? When you say this, it's May the 1st?
Anything is possible. It depends on who your teacher is. Now, Courtney says his teacher was his grandmother. He started since 4 years old. So he might have a little bit up on you. But he said that's what made him successful in the finance world, is the learning the whole math situation.
Well, I'm about to say something that's kind of embarrassing. I thought for a long time, dominoes, Rockin', don't laugh at me about this. I thought dominoes were just to be set up and then pluck that one and watch them all fall down. I did not know for a long, long time until I was really an adult and started being around the brothers quite a bit, that them talking about them bones, that it was actually a serious game.
It's one of the first games ever invented. We dated back to the 12th century in China. But knocking them over, well, that's a great way to entertain yourself.
Well, let's put it like this. That's the way I entertained myself.
But work kept you out of trouble, right?
Dominoes.
Kept you out of trouble.
So, May the 1st, Hooters in Las Vegas.
That's right, on Tropicana.
All right, then.
Yeah, and go to www.universaldominoleague.com to register. It's only $250 to get in the game.
Can I borrow $250?
You might want to start a crowdfunding source.
Okay.
But we do have the theme song, hopefully, that we'll play, called Champion, because we believe anybody and everybody can be a champion. Anybody over 21 could play the game and compete and win. We support Wounded Warrior Project because we want the military to come out, and there's no participation fee for them to be part of it. So
Okay.
veterans, we welcome you. Come out there and show your skills. We'd love to have you. Again, www.universaldominoleague.com. So, Rock, are we ready to play that song by
Is it
Sean
key?
Hayes McDonald called Champion? Check this out.
I'm ready for war. I'm ready for war. So remember my name.
Danger. Danger.
Yeah, turn me up.
Danger.
Passion, drive, focus, motivation, ambition, tunnel vision. That's what it takes to be a champion. Skill, competition, gotta compete. Win, lose, or draw, back on your feet. Do it to death, give it your best. Winners take all, don't settle for less. Fall, get a wipe off your chest and go the distance. Bob and weave with persistence. Keep throwing punches, beat them senseless. Remain relentless. Takes a man to execute a plan to make an entrance. A loser, I am not, that's the difference. Desire to be the greatest, upset you haters. Takes hard work and sacrifice, you wanna play this to win. So when that bell ring, that ref's counting to 10. The loser zone I can't be in. I am a fighter, I'm a warrior, champion.
See the fire burns in my eyes again. Nothing will save you when I'm coming. I'm the champion.
I'm ready for war. I'm ready for war.
So remember my name.
Every day's a fight, every day's a challenge. Obstacles to try and knock you off balance. Defeat is not in my creed. I train hard, never surrender cause I believe I'm unstoppable, I wear it well on my sleeve. When others doubted me, I push hard to achieve victory over my opponent cause I own it. Blood, sweat, and tears through the years I have shown it. The power like lightning rods, I beat the odds. Look at the scorecards and these battle scars. Weakness, nope, it's not in my heart. I conquer, jump hurdles, go hard from the start. Ignite the spark. History will remember me, I give it my all. There's no denying me, only time will tell how much you excel. So if you fall, get back up, it's up to you not to fail. I am a champion.
Burns in my eyes again. Nothing will save you when I'm coming. I'm the champion.
I'm ready for war. I'm ready for war.
So remember my name.
How did Universal Domino League get started?
I'm glad you asked that question. The founder is Harold Moret Jr. We call him JR. He founded it. He's an expert at dominoes and also promotions. He's promoted a lot of concerts and all types of other games like this and events. He's part of the Aftermath Entertainment Group that Dr. Dre started. So he's known as the king of dominoes because he's a heck of a promoter, and we're about to take this across the nation, the military bases, and about any Hooters in the United States. There's over 400 Hooter locations. So we'll be at Kentucky, New Orleans, Kansas City, wherever the Hooters will take us, that's where we're going.
Kentucky, that's my home state.
Yeah, well,
Kentucky.
we've got to make it happen.
All right. I understand you have two very lovely hostesses.
Yes, we do. Liana Mendoza, an actress, she recently did a spot on Scandal, and you'll see her in a lot of other upcoming specials, especially her Untitled TV show. And also we have Lourdes Gonzalez, who is known for her radio personality on Speedy, Sirius XM, Rollout with Speedy, is produced by Jamie Foxx. So
Okay.
it's going to be really nice. And the nice thing about Lourdes is she is a former military vet. So we hire military vets to be part of our organization, as well as, like I said, invite them out.
All right. Well, I know you're working on this, but I also know you're a very busy lady in Hollywood. What other projects you got going?
Well, as I mentioned, Liana Mendoza has an untitled comedy variety talk show that I am producing and co-created with her. So we expect that to come out maybe in a month or so. It's going to be hilarious. Think of her as the Latina Lucille Ball.
Okay.
You know, so we haven't had one like that since Lucille Ball, so she's the one to do it. She's hilarious.
Okay. Okay, it's time for the shameless plug. Didn't you work with a certain photographer and help him get an award, a national award from Ford
my
Motor
gosh,
Company?
I sure did, and he still owes me.
Well,
The check did not clear. No.
The check did not clear?
No, but it's fine. Yes, I'm honored to have nominated Haywood Galbraith, your host for today, as an unsung hero in the city of Los Angeles for his work with the youth. Photography, teaching them how to become the media for big events like the Super Bowl and, you know, the All-Star game and everything else that photographers of color should be able to cover.
That's right. We're champions. We're champions.
Yes, and by the way,
This
that was
lady's
Sean
awesome.
Hayes McDonough, champion. Look out for that song.
All right. Well, I think you have any more to say on it?
No, that's it. I want to thank you for having me here. Sharita, we missed you. Hope to see you soon. Blessings to you and your family. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming by and talking to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can stay here and listen to me. Hopefully, I'm not going to trip over myself too much. Rock, you going to take care of me? All right.
All right.
All right. My engineer will take care of me and make sure you blot everything out that should be blotted out.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, I got my script here, and one of the things I said I was going to talk about today, I was going to give you an update. I was going to give everybody an update reference what I was here talking about a few months ago with Miss Sharita. She so graciously had me come down and talk about it, and that was an update on the OJ documentary. It's like the documentary of the century, the photo documentary of the century that I'm working on. For you who do not know, I had the privilege and the honor being in that trial from the beginning to the end. It was 139 days, I believe, which encompassed 9 months of the trial. And before that, we had 6 months of preliminary hearings. And I was the only photojournalist in the world to have the privilege of being there to document it every day. So since I was here last, I now have a management team, and they have kind of stifled what I could say about things so that we can keep a surprise with the photo documentary and other things that are taking place. But one of the things that has happened since I last spoke to you, referenced the documentary, is we're going to focus. They decided to focus on the story behind the story. And the story behind the story is what it took for a photojournalist of color, that being myself, to get from where I came from to get to Los Angeles to be able to cover the trial. Now, as you know, we have an issue here in this country, an issue with the issue of race and racism. So my ability to cover the O.J. Simpson trial just wasn't like all other media, the opportunity to just go in there and cover it. I had to fight. I had to advocate for the ability and the opportunity for the black press of America to participate in the trial. And through the kindness and the understanding of the Honorable Judge Lance Ito, who happened to have retired at the beginning of the year, he saw that there was a need to have equal access for the black press, and so he permitted us to be a part of it. But the story behind the story is how I started out in a small town, Mayfield, Kentucky, in the late 50s, and when I was born, had to be born in the basement of a hospital because black babies couldn't be born upstairs with white babies. We were still in segregation. And if any of you saw the movie Selma, when I went to see the movie Selma, it was very painful for me because it just wasn't a movie to me. It was something that I had lived and my family had lived. And the story behind the story, like I said, is how it took me to get from Mayfield, Kentucky to Los Angeles, Hollywood, California to become part of the largest media event of the 20th century and to tell the story that hasn't been told for the past 20 years through the eyes of the black press of America. So that's my update reference to that and like I said, I can't tell too much about what we're doing and how we're going to do it, but I can tell you that it's taken somewhat of a different direction. We're working on several aspects of it, and I think that when it comes out, you will be pleasantly surprised, and you will be surprised. As I said before, some parts of the story may make you angry, but there'll be parts of the story that will make you laugh and make you proud. The other thing is, when I was here before, I had quite an opinion about mainstream media. And since that time, I've stopped and I've reflected, and I no longer feel the way I felt. If you followed me on Facebook, you would see through the years I've had quite a bit to say about things that take place in this country. And through a period of reflection the past several months, I've changed my opinion about certain things, and that is one of the things, because it all comes down to what I always tell people. Don Henley's song, Heart of the Matter, and what he speaks about is forgiveness. And on Facebook a few weeks ago, I actually posted, I think that 19 years is long enough to be angry about being treated unfairly. So it's time to let it go. And if you do call yourself a spiritual person, and I profess to be a spiritual person, you have to let it go. You have to let love be what it's supposed to be. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the final verse, the final line. These three things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest among these is love. You have to love, you have to forgive. It don't mean you forget, but you have to forgive, you have to let it go, and you have to move forward. You have to cleanse yourself of it and go forward. So that's that for the update. If any of you wish to follow me on Facebook, as I put on my glasses, these are my Facebook pages. Facebook.com, Haywood Galbraith. I have several pages. The Haywood Galbraith Story, Facebook.com, The Haywood Galbraith Story. Facebook.com, that page talks about my coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial, O.J. Untold Through the Lens. And then there's Facebook.com, MPJI.org, which is the page for my nonprofit. You heard Marie speak about I teach young kids, and this is very important to me, and it should be important to all of us. We have an epidemic in this nation of young kids, especially young black males, being murdered. And so I try to do my part. I work with the Inglewood Pacific Links chapter of the Links Incorporated to teach young kids photography at Inglewood High School. We have a program there that is part of their AVID program, and I have 10 young African-American males in the program, and we take them on field trips to different parts of the city so that they can have exposure to a different world. And one of the things that we found out when we first started doing this was that it was amazing that most of these young men had never gone further than 5 miles from their neighborhood. That's all they really knew about the city and their life, is within 5 miles of their neighborhood. And it is so impressive to see these young men when we take them to different places like Griffith Park, the Botanical Gardens. We, this past weekend before last, we took the young men on a field trip to Long Beach on a whale watching trip that was set up by one of my colleagues, a gentleman by the name of Stefan Coleman, who works KABC 7. And they came out and covered us. But it is so interesting to see the difference in these young men's demeanor when we take them to these different parts of town. They're an entirely different type of person and have a different type of personality, because one of the things that's not recognized is that these young men, these young people who live in these urban communities, quite often have to fight on the way to school, fight on the way home from school, sometimes fight in school, and sometimes fight at home. So it's great when they can get away and just be young people. And I'm about to turn to my engineer, and ask him, is it time for a break? And we're going to commercial for our sponsor, and we'll be back in a minute.
Are you a diabetic? Need some energy? Need to quench your thirst? Try Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, the only energy drink named suitable for diabetics by the American Diabetic Association. And it's now available with no calories, no carbs, no sugar, and no fat, and a smooth, natural blend of energy, vitamins, and minerals. Need to quench your thirst? Try Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, the only energy drink named suitable for diabetics by the American Diabetic Association. And it's now available with no calories, no carbs, no sugar, and no fat, and a smooth, natural blend of energy, vitamins, and minerals. Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink is the healthiest, best-tasting energy drink around. For more information and online ordering with free shipping, please visit hiphopbev.com. Remember, Pitbull Sugar-Free Energy Drink, suitable for diabetics, great for everyone.
So we're back. All right, thank you. Thank you, Rod. Yeah. You know, I said today that I was also going to talk about some other things that are pertinent in the news, and we seem to have an academic as well of young black men being killed by police officers. It seems like almost every week one is. And it's a serious issue. And it's a serious issue that I spend a lot of time as a journalist for 31 years this August. I've seen a lot of interaction between law enforcement and citizens. And the situation we find ourselves in, with seeming like every week there's another young African-American male killed by police officers, is something that really needs to be addressed. We need to address this situation in our community among African Americans, and it needs to be addressed by law enforcement. You know, one of the things that I've seen through the years reference law enforcement is when something happens, law enforcement has a ready script that they use as to what took place, as to why they were able to do what they do. Most of you may not remember, because you weren't a part of it, younger folks, the civil rights movement, when we got out and folks protested and fought for the right to have certain civil rights and rights. What I'm going to say, reference this issue, is that we need to find a constructive way, not a destructive way, but a constructive way to protest what has become an epidemic of the loss of life of young men of color at the hands of those whose job it is to serve and protect them. And we need to step up to the plate, that is in our communities, and help our young men become, like I said, because I'm working with the youth, become the type of young men who don't put themselves in a position to become a victim of that type of behavior by law enforcement. And so, as I said, it's something we need to work on. We need to have constructive protest. We need to take it into our hands and go and talk to our city officials and law enforcement in a constructive way to see what we can do to work this situation out. You know, the most recent one, well, not the most recent one, but the one in South Carolina, or North Carolina, I believe. It's either North or South Carolina, where the young man, well, he wasn't a young man, was killed by the police officer, and it was caught on tape. If the videotape hadn't have been there, it would have been just the same story that we always get, that the man was doing something he shouldn't have done and the officer had to kill him, but the tape, or shoot him, but the tape showed difference. And that is not an anomaly. More than not, the story that law enforcement gives is not the actual story. And so we need to work. This is an issue that's very dear to me, it's very dear to a lot of us, that we need to address. And also, I'd like to speak to the issue of videotaping. It is the First Amendment right, freedom of speech, to videotape what is taking place and to document what is taking place. I often see young people on YouTube and on Facebook documenting quite often fights and everything. That's not what you should be doing. But in reference to documenting what law enforcement does, as a journalist, I want you to know, I want you to understand, because documentation comes in very handy in a lot of situations, pro and con, reference to interaction with law enforcement. You do have a right, but there's a certain way that you should conduct yourself in doing it. Please, don't taunt law enforcement, and don't get in the way of law enforcement. You have a right to stand on the sidewalk and document what's going on, but don't interfere with the job of law enforcement in reference to documenting the action that is taking place. And furthermore, don't taunt law enforcement. Just document and move on and make sure the appropriate individuals get it. And with that, I'm going to change up a little bit. I'm going to move on to something else that's been in the news in reference to journalism, because that is my profession, journalism, and that is the issue that came up just the other day with Ben Affleck. I don't know how many of you know this, but there's a controversy brewing now with PBS that because of WikiLeaks and the leakage of documents from Sony, that in a conversation, hold on just a second, in a conversation, Professor Henry Louis Gates had a conversation with Sony, referenced Ben Affleck wishing to have the information about one of his ancestors that was a slave owner not put into a piece that was being done about Ben Affleck. Professor Gates contacted some people at Sony and asked their opinion about it. The people at Sony said, you know, if this will never be found out, it'd be nice to do it and to cave in to Ben Affleck's wishes. Professor Gates went ahead and caved in, and now there's a major controversy because PBS has strict rules about not caving in, and in journalistic integrity, you don't cave in and you don't give in to the wishes of the people that are being interviewed. You play it straight across the board, and now we have a major controversy involving this situation. And so that's in the news. There are other things in the news. And for now, I'm going to turn it back to my man, Rock, and see if we have some more, some sponsor stuff or some music. We're back. You know, I forgot to tell you all, if you have questions or a response to something I said, please call in. The number is 323-965-1600. That number again is 323-965-1600. If you have questions, some of you may have some questions about the OJ matters. Some of you may have some different questions that I may be able to answer for you. I'm going to go back to the OJ matter for a moment because this is the 20th anniversary this year. The trial started on January the 1st, 1995. Not January the 1st, but January the 23rd, 4th, 1995, and the verdict was read on October the 3rd, 1995. And in that 20 years since that time, a lot has taken place, a lot has changed in reference to media. As a matter of fact, when I was here before, I had spoken to Sharita that media, actually what we know as media today wasn't the same 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the news business was a serious news business. If you look at news today, news is a lot of fluff and a lot of entertainment news, and there's no deep journalism, investigative journalism the way it used to be. One of the reasons is that over the past 20 years, there's been so many mergers, and media companies are now owned, most media companies are now owned by 2 or 3 major conglomerates who control almost 90% of what you see and what you hear. Even though they're different names, they're still owned by the same companies, and they still have the same perspective for the most part in their coverage. And like I said, it has changed from seriously covering the news to a lot of fluff, a lot of entertainment. It is ratings driven, and ratings bring in more income, so that's what they go with. And so, reference the O.J. Simpson matter, like I said, it changed news coverage, because in the O.J. Simpson matter was the first time from gavel to gavel that we had the coverage of a trial with media. As a matter of fact, downtown they set up what they called a little media town downtown. I think there was like $5,000 requests for credentials. I think it only wound up that there was like 35 given to be in the courtroom, because the courtroom that was not that big. And so we had coverage from all over the world in reference to the O.J. Simpson matter. Understand this, that the O.J. Simpson matter was the largest media event of the 20th century. There was no other event. You had world wars, you had the assassination of President Kennedy, you had the assassination of Martin Luther King, you had the scandal involving the president, but nothing that took place in the 20th century was as large of a media event as the O.J. Simpson double murder trial. Also, just for your trivia information, it was the largest criminal court case in the history of America. Now, reference, like I said earlier, reference the Black Press of America. Never in the history, and I'm just giving you some trivia, never in the history of America had the Black Press of America been permitted to go in any courtroom or any major event on a consistent basis, daily, sitting beside the mainstream organizations, especially when it comes to photo coverage of those events. In 1994, with the decision that the judge made, history was made when the Black Press had a permanent position in the courtroom. It just so happened that I was the photojournalist who had advocated for it and wound up being the only photojournalist in the world to have daily access. It is so important, reference this matter, because for 20 years there's been one perspective of what took place, and that one perspective has basically jaded the opinion about O.J. Simpson. I'm not saying that O.J. Simpson was a perfect man, but O.J. Simpson, the idea that O.J. Simpson is guilty, the idea that O.J. Simpson is guilty is because of what you've seen and what you heard. As I often tell people, if you did not sit in that courtroom every day and hear what was taking place, if you did not watch it on TV all day long every day, if all you got reference what was taking place in that courtroom every day came from what you read in the newspaper, what you heard on the radio, and what you saw talked about on the news at night, then you have a jaded version of what took place in the courtroom. In reference to what I'm doing, I am going to present to you a very truthful, day by day, documentation of what took place. And what I want you, the American public, to do, when we release the photo documentary book, the documentary, I want you to use your logic and your common sense to look at this and ask yourself, when the information has been put there to you, was it logical that this man could and would commit those 2 homicides? And ask yourself whether what you have seen for the past 2 years has been truthfully presented to you. That's all I'm going to ask you to do. I think you will come to the conclusion, after looking at the evidence that we're going to present, the story that's going to be told to you from someone who was there every day, that you have been given a slanted version of events that took place that determined what you would think and caused you to feel that Mr. Simpson was guilty, when in all actuality, what the evidence shows leads away, and the way the evidence was collected leads away from his guilt. And so, I don't hear the phones ringing with Rocky. The phone's ringing. We're waiting for the phones to ring for people to call in, ask questions. You got any questions? No question? Rocky, do you have a question?
I had a comment, I guess a comment or a question about, I just heard the other day about the young man that shot Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
His release from jail. They're trying to release him from jail into psychiatric help on the outside. That's one of the biggest controversies right now. He'd be the first president to ever be released out of jail.
Well, you know, it just may happen. They've been working on it for years.
Yeah.
Trying to get him released. I think, as a matter of fact, he's been having home visits or something.
Yeah, the Secret Service follows him, but they let him go see his dad and come back.
Speaking of that, you know, we have another big story that has not been too big in the media. Reference another African American that was killed, and that was the young man that was killed in Tulsa by the deputy, what they're calling the pay-to-play deputy in Tulsa. That was the 1st of April. He was shot. There was a sting operation. The young man was selling. There's some video of it on the internet now. As a matter of fact, today I looked at it. If you go to USA Today, to their website, and type in about the young man that was killed in Tulsa, the gentleman who shot him was a contributor to the Tulsa Police Department, the Sheriff Department. He's a wealthy real estate man, and he had been purchasing cars and equipment for the Tulsa Sheriff Department. Supposedly, he had gone through all this training to use the taser, to use weapons. And the day of the sting, he was out there with undercover cops. The sting went down. They have it on videotape. The sting went down. The brother realized that something was going down. All of a sudden, he jumped out of the car. He bolted. He was running down the street. One of the deputies had the body cam. They followed him. They caught up with him. He sort of goes blank for a second, and then you hear this gunshot. The guy falls to the ground. He says, "I've been shot." You hear the deputy, the reserve deputy, holler, "I'm sorry, I shot him." He drops his gun. I have even a bigger controversy reference that particular incident, because you can see clearly in the videotape that the officers are smashing the guy's head into the ground. The guy's saying, "I've been shot." The officer is still talking nasty to him. He tells one of the officers, I can't breathe. One of the officers responds with a explicit, F your breath. He didn't care. The guy winds up dying, I think, a few hours later. Well, what happened was the Tulsa Police Department was just going to play it off. Sheriff's office was going to play it off and say, it was an accident. Hey, it was just an accident. He didn't mean to do it. And what happened was they even brought in another Tulsa police official, to do an investigation. He did the investigation and said, it was just one of those things that happens. And he laid it off to a certain type of reflex that the mind and the body has when reaching for different weapons at different times, a trained reaction. He said, hey, it just happened. That's one of those things that happen. Well, with the media coverage, it was brought back to attention, and what happened the other day was the deputy was charged with manslaughter, given bond, but the big issue for the day is yesterday. As you know, quite often when someone is charged with a serious crime, their passport is taken, they become a flight risk, most especially when it's a person of color. Give us your passport. It's a possible flight risk. The prosecutors will say, well, this individual is a flight risk. And so the judge takes their passports and say, you can't go nowhere. You got to get permission to leave the city, the state, especially the country. Well, yesterday it was reported that gave this gentleman permission to go to the Bahamas on vacation. And so, needless to say, that has caused another controversy. And the question is, why didn't you take his passport? Why don't you consider the fact that he's leaving the country as a flight risk?
Go to the video right now.
Okay.
He's running. Stop right here. 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 All right, Leon. I need to roll on your stomach. Now. Here.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
He shot me! He shot me! I'll fight him! Don't fight him! Oh my God! He shot me! He shot me! You hear me? Yeah, bro! Oh God! Oh, he shot me! I didn't do shit! He shot me, man! Oh my God! You didn't do. You hear me? I'm losing my breath.
Well, I think that if I had gotten shot, I might be squirming a little bit as well.
They said that they were interviewing or looking at the records of the reserve cop, and there were several times he had to take the test for the gun.
Yeah.
I saw on the news that they signed off for it eventually by one of the hierarchies at the police department just to let him go through.
Yes. Well, like I said, my understanding is that this gentleman had bought police cars and other police equipment. I also saw today that a lawyer for the family said that the particular weapon he was using, which was a .357, was against protocol for him to be able to have that type of weapon. It wasn't in the sheriff's department weapons that could be used by sheriff deputies and reserve deputies. So, yes, it's a major controversy. It's happening way too much. We'll say this: it's either happening way too much, or because of video cameras, we now get to see it more, and media paying more attention to it. So we're still waiting, still listening. I know you're out there, folks. I know you're out there. I know you got to have a question or two. So give us a call here at the station and give us your thoughts on what we've talked about so far. Oh shit. All right, we just saw the video of Walter Scott being shot in Carolina. Like I said, when they did the police report, you know, they went by the standard script that is used, that certain things had taken place and that it was the gentleman's fault. And like I said, if there hadn't have been the videotape, once again, he would probably be on desk duty for a few weeks, and then they would probably have a hearing. It would go to, I can't think of the name right now, that they always take him to, and they probably would say there was not enough charges to the grand jury. They would probably say, after looking at it for a while, there was not enough evidence to indict him with something, but the videotape showed entirely different. And it's great that it was there. And that goes back to the issue of what I said. You know, when you see things taking place, that is one of the best things that we can use and have to our advantage now is cell phone cameras. Now, as a journalist, cell phone cameras get on my nerves because everybody now thinks that they are a journalist and a photographer. And when we're covering major news events, everybody has their cell phone camera stuck up in the air like this, trying to shoot the pictures of what's going on. It's amazing because a lot of times when we cover events, most especially with the president and stuff, we are put on a podium at the back of the crowd to shoot toward the stage. And it's amazing when the main speakers come up to speak, how many cell phone cameras you see come up doing this that's in the shot. Even when you're looking at it on television, it's just funny to see all these cell phone cameras stuck up here trying to get the shot. And then you got people saying, hold it, hold it, hold it, because as you know, cell phone cameras and lower end cameras, it takes a second or two for it to take the pictures. So they get in the way, and a lot of times they will get on you for getting on them for being in the way, talking about, we got it right, and I want to capture this image. Look at it on television.
My question to you.
Yes.
My question to you is, looking back at the videos that we have now, I mean, there's numerous amount of videos that people have caught of what the cops and have done, shooting, beating, or taking advantage of individuals. Do you think now it's gonna get an opportunity for them to look back at past events and things that have happened in our past that are questionable, to say maybe, because a lot of times we said all this stuff happened, we always say things happened, but there was never
any clear evidence that
right.
Well, you know, the most interesting thing about videos and audio, when it comes from citizens, and we feel that it's clear, there's always this discussion among officials that, well, you didn't catch the whole thing. You only caught a portion of it. There was something that took place before that. Now, reverse it, and when it's the law enforcement that has the video, it's always, this is evidence. It cannot be denied. Nothing took place before. Nothing took place after. This is the way it is, and most people get convicted on that video. Very seldom have I seen law enforcement get convicted on the video. One of the things that law enforcement has is lawyers that get paid millions of dollars to, as Rudyard Kipling says, twist the truth and get the jury to see it another way and convince the jury. So to answer your question, I don't think that there's going to be much looking back by law enforcement and government officials to go back and undo and really take a hard look at cases and things that have taken place in the past, reference what we consider to be unjust and use of force, unnecessary use of force. That's just the way the system is. Unless we get people in a position to change the laws and be more open, law enforcement is in a position and has the backing of certain people to continue to do what they do the way they do it. What we have to do is get individuals in there who see, recognize that there is a problem, and be willing to work to change. You know, I hit on something earlier about the issue of race in America. And I think that a lot of it has to do with, truly with still the issue of race in America and a certain fear that when it comes to black and white relationships in America?
I have another video on the show.
Okay.
All right.
I did not sell nothing. Because every time you see me, you want to harass me, you want to stop me trying to sell cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone. Please don't touch me. Don't touch me, please.
Hold on.
Don't touch me, please. Do not touch me.
Damn, man.
All right, stop. Give your hands, buddy.
Put your hand behind your back. I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Once again, police beating up on people. Back up right here.
Back up, then get on that steps.
Okay.
Back up.
All he did was break up a fight. And this is what happens for breaking up a fight. This shit is crazy.
Everybody back up.
He can't breathe. Look, now, man, they gave this man a seizure.
Yo, move out the way. Yo.
It's my brother. We live here.
Back up this way. Everybody now back up. It's now going to become a crisis. Back it up. Back it up.
I'm going to my house.
No. This way. Let's go.
Can't go in my house.
Yeah, I remember that one from last year as well. You know, the police officers, they went to a grand jury. We got to get some different people on these grand juries to see things a little bit different, the way they are. Went to a grand jury. The grand jury said, no charges. And that seems to be the problem. Grand juries just letting the police off, and it does cause quite a bit of animosity in the black community, most especially when the grand jury is mainly made up of white Americans that continue to let white police officers off and not have to pay a price for overuse of force and the death of black men. And on that, let me just say this. We as a nation, as people as a whole, we have got to get to the point where everybody's life, because we now have this thing that says Black Lives Matter. It's trending on Twitter all the time. There's some people who say, well, all lives matter. That's true, but it seems to be that mostly the lives that appear to be taken unjustly are the lives of black men at the hands of white police officers. But what I was about to say, we've got to get to the point as a people as a whole that all lives matter, and in particular, African Americans' lives begin to matter, and the equality that African Americans have in America matters just as much as their white brethren. You notice I say white brethren because we all brothers and sisters. We're all in this game together. You know, one of the things that I think about often as a young man coming up during the time of the Vietnam War, which I think was one of the first war or conflict we had that the armed services was really integrated, and everybody was together. And you go and you talk to these, as they say, these old cats about what went on, and I would talk to the brothers that would come back and some white guys that would come back, and one of the conclusions they came to reference what was taking place and reference the animosity that was had in reference to race. One of the things they said is when they got to Vietnam and they was in these foxholes and they were in the trenches, and you know, white guys didn't like black guys and black guys didn't like white guys, and there were some Asian guys that didn't like black, white, or Asian or whatever. One of the things they said is they had to look at each other and they had to come to a conclusion. And the conclusion they came to, sitting in this foxhole with somebody trying to kill them all, was that the only way they were going to get back home or have a chance of getting out of that situation is if they all came together as one and put all racial animosity and other animosity aside and became as one and worked together to get themselves out of those situations and get back home. And I think that's something, and within the context of that, they began to see that what they had been taught about each other on the main line wasn't true, that they were all basically the same. There were some that never changed their opinions, but most of them began to change their opinions about how they felt about the different races, the different ethnicities. And I think in America, you know, sometimes I sit and think, and I talk to the great spirit God, like maybe you ought to let something happen in America, that we all wake up one morning and we realize that the only way we're going to get out of this and the only way America's going to continue to be America is if we all come together and work together. And within doing that, we find out that we are one people and that we are the United States of America. And that's why we're the United States of America, because we work together and pull together. That's just, you know, it's one of my opinions on it. Others may have different opinions on it. But I really hope soon, and I hope that my white brothers and sisters and my black brothers and sisters in law enforcement and other places in life in America, that we come together and we recognize we're all in this thing together and we work together to build a stronger nation, because there are forces outside of this nation who are just waiting till we tear ourselves a little bit more apart inside to come and take over this nation and us. All right, we have come to the end of our show. I want to thank once again Miss Sharita for asking me to be her guest host today. I hope I have done a good job being the guest host. I want to thank my man Rock for getting me through it. I hope everybody enjoyed and have a great evening, a great drive home. And Miss Sharita will be back next week with a special guest. And I thank you for tuning in today. Thank you.
You feel good? Play so much bone, brother. How you feel, man? I call your name. I don't want no people to know you're in here. How you feel, fella? Hey, yeah. Sure getting down. Gotta take you high. All right. You want to do it again? You want to do it again, huh? Yeah, let's go on that. Gotta take you high.
Lunch with Sharita J. If we could get more people to collaborate with our nonprofits, we could be bringing a lot more programs back to our schools, because there's grants where there's been a music program or an arts program or fine language program cut. There's grants where individuals can bring those programs into the schools and collaborate. So that's why I never shut up about this. C360. That stands for Collaborative 360, and that's where we've launched a program where we are identifying the grant funders and writing the grants for our affiliates. That could even be you if you're not already a part of C360. And you know, Kim, again, I'm always touching on where there's grants. Even when you're doing your show, because you're touching on self-esteem, leadership skills,